support people here. But Pandyaji, I really, really appreciate this opportunity to come here and spend some time and talk to you. As I said before, today is Mother's Day, and I don't want to keep people too long. But if there is any question, it's up to you. Anything you want to find out about, and Pandyaji permits, then I can be very specific in the answers rather than just talking generally and going on forever. Thank you very much.
Give them a big round of applause. President G, we will allow the questions after we have done the Mother's Day part. But one question is coming up again and again. Will you be allowed to run for a third term of presidency? Just one question.
Right. Well, this seems to be the most asked question around the country and everywhere, and I think it seems to be their nightmare. And as you know, we made some fundamental changes in the Constitution. I think it's the most progressive constitution in the Western Hemisphere, and at some time we can talk about that, all the features of our new constitution, recognizing the multi-ethnic nature of our society, its diversity, etc. But we had put in, I signed into law the constitution, and we put in 2 terms limit. So I left when my 2 terms had been completed. So I served about 12 and a half years. All my intention was to leave and do other things. I wanted new challenges, so I started doing a lot internationally. And then 2011 elections, and they won the majority in the parliament. And so, but I only went home and I spent time around budget to help them prepare the budget and that sort of thing. I had gotten out of not politics. I'm still a member of the party, but didn't want to be seen, if you have a sitting president, to be making statements all the time. So, but I regret that today. I regret not spending more time at home in the 3 years when I left the presidency. I did a lot of work around the world. I spent about 1.5 years, visited 45 countries. That was the rest of my life I wanted to do it. The only reason I came back is, one, after the elections, there was this sense of hopelessness in our support base, in our communities. 2, people were drifting. And 3, there were some others who were trying to poach on our base. They were trying to create other organizations. If that had happened, we'd never had a chance of winning back power in Ghana. So I knew coming back would change that, consolidate the base. And we proved that in the local government elections. Coming back, working the ground, changing the approach of the party, trying to get more young people, more women in, getting the older comrades more active. And that was the only reason I came back. Who runs in the future is not important to me. What is important is the PPP gets back in power, and I'm going to work hard every day. Now, you asked for that to happen. So someone went to court on the Constitution that we passed into law, putting 2 terms limit. And the court ruled that it's unconstitutional, the 2 terms limit, because it should have gone to a referendum. You see, the same amendment that where we put in 2/3, the WPA and the others had they didn't want Janet. Remember, Janet and stuff was around, so they said, we put in another clause that you had to be born in Guyana to be president, because they were worried that a Janet-type situation would repeat itself. And then another restriction that you have to spend 7 years resident in Guyana before you contest. So assuming one of your Guyanese citizens, you can now run for president. But under the new constitution, you have to be resident for 7 years. So the court ruled all of these 3 things unconstitutional. So that court decision if you follow it, I can run again. Of course, that's going to be challenge and stuff like that, because it says, the court said you need a referendum to make that change. That although they had 2/3 support in the parliament, that what if 2/3 of the parliamentarians get together and say people over 60 years can't vote? So you'd have 2/3, it meets the requirement, but then it's unconstitutional still, because we have a democracy in Ghana and you can't do that. So this is where it stands. But the biggest nightmare for them is that I run again. That's their biggest nightmare. So, but that's not important to me, because I'd moved on mentally, but I've come back now and all my energies are focused on getting the PPP back into office. And
how about if I were to run for president?
Exactly. No, some of you could very well.
Anybody wants me to run for president? Okay. Very good. So Dr. G will carry on afterwards. Let me just